I look at this ban on the traditional Latin Mass and I feel really bad about it. I don't like such harsh punishments coming to the people who are like super traditional. What I kind of see a problem with, even though they're given like this, okay, maybe we can have the Mass in Latin, we can resume Latin Mass, and then they're taken to the internet like, we need the Latin Mass or we're not saved, things like that. Rosary's got to be prayed every day or we're not saved. Trent Horn's right in his video. We got a lot of really nutty people out there who think like you've got to do all this very specific stuff to be saved, and it just isn't true. There are saints and miracles happening in other churches, unfortunately for you, and there's kind of got to be a compromise. I really don't like seeing. I would love to go to Latin masses and whatnot, but I don't really like this idea that there's going to be people pushing out there like it needs to be in Latin or else it doesn't count. So a compromise kind of does need to be made. Unfortunately, like I really like the trads. I think going forth and having these strict routines and whatnot, it's really, really a great thing. It's really a great sign of sanctification. However, you guys are like little atheist factories. The reason so many Satanists need to get that Catholic Eucharist is because, to a point I believe, yeah, because we believe it is the true body and blood of Christ. Like, it is literally body and blood of Christ. That plays a point, but I feel like a lot of Satanists come from the Catholic Church. I get it, Anton LaVey was a Baptist, but the reason we have so many atheists who hate us is because they grew up in our church and they grew up with... Alright, here's a little story about one of the really, really traditional... I think it's like a St. Peter's, SSPX church. They still do traditional Latin Mass there. But they have basically... There's a story about a chick who locked herself in the bathroom, the hotel bathroom of her hotel room on her wedding night, because she figured out that night what married couples do. And that's no way to be brought up in this world. I get it. You see all this hedonism out here, and you have parents telling you, there's nothing wrong with watching porn. There's nothing wrong with premarital sex. Just do what feels good, And I see that. But the opposite side of the pendulum isn't necessarily the better. Rarely ever is the opposite side, like one really far side of a pendulum, all that great, all the correct thing to do. That's kind of... You're misleading your kids if that's what you're doing. I don't want to see that. You should tell them everything there is to know about a marriage before they get married. You have failed your children if you have not done that. Like, it is an oath to an openness of procreation. So don't tell me, like, oh, they can live in contentment. They don't need to have sex. So then, no, if you get married, you should try to have kids. That is, if you're in this religion and you're getting married, this marriage is not something between you and Mrs. Whoever. It is God is making that marriage official. You live by God's word. You be fruitful and multiply. So I don't want to hear any more about this. I'm not going to teach my kids about sex until their wedding night. Their husbands can explain it. Like, what the hell, dude? No. Alright. Next up. There is salvation outside of the traditional Latin Mass. I think the traditional Latin Mass is so beautiful, how it reflects the passion and everything. But come on, you can't be that naive and saying, oh, I need to be like Peter Diamond. It has to be traditional Latin Mass, and only I'm going to heaven, everybody else is going to hell because I have the right secret knowledge here. I know what to believe exactly. That's a little far-fetched. No one's buying it. You know, you're going to find yourself being a sedevacantist no matter what. Second, like, I kind of, where I do stand with the trads is there does need to be more traditional Latin Mass. I've tried to look for places that do it. I have to drive either, I live in North County, San Diego, so I have to either drive south of San Diego or north of LA in order to have a traditional Latin Mass. And I think that's unacceptable. There needs to be more of it. I think certain parishes should be allowed. I don't see why any parish should be banned from having it. I don't see what's wrong with the traditional Latin Mass. It's coming back. Liberals, you've got to realize, and I'm talking like the people high up in the church who want this banned, it's not going to stay that way. You're not going to have cardinals in 20 years that are seeing eye to eye with you on why this should be banned. It's coming back. And you gotta stand on the right side of history. Are you gonna be remembered as somebody who tried to oppress out the people who really wanted to take an extra step forward and live by these ancient and sacred traditions? But that compromise does need to be made. I'm already seeing in the comment sections of a lot of these things with Latin Masses getting a little wild. Peter Diamond is wrong for schisming from the church. He needs to come back. And he could probably make a nice compromise with all the bishops and the Vatican even about, like, okay, we'll adhere to Vatican II, but we want to do our Mass. We're fighting for this, and we don't believe that Muslims worship the same God as us. That's a little bit of a complex thing. I've taken kind of a stance like that Islam is a perversion of Christianity, like worse than Mormonism, Jehovah's Witnesses, Unitarians, and you know, like Blessed Ni Cristo and all those things. But I mean, those are stances we can take. I think I don't really see any point in, you know, you need to see that Muslims worship God in the same way and they believe he's the same thing. I believe that Muslims worship God, they're just not doing it in a very good way, not in a very fruitful way. Feeding the poor it just doesn't cut it. When you have civil wars, you're twice as likely to be in a civil war or another war than places who are not Muslim. So, yeah, looking at the fruits of that. Next thing. The Novus Ordo Mass, unfortunately for the trads out there, is not unbiblical. It is absolutely biblical. I can tell you all about what this and that part of the Mass is referring to and why it's being done. It's not all that different in theory to the traditional Latin Mass. I do think altars need to be more traditional. Like, they need to be more beautiful. The tabernacle should be behind it. Things like that, like the old-fashioned churches. I would love to see that come back, but I'm not necessarily like... I think the Catholic Church can be quite liberal in its architecture, as long as it's beautiful. And I'm going to say somewhat, because I actually do defend the cathedral in Los Angeles. There should be one cathedral that has brutalist architecture. I think you can go around and find any form of architecture within the church. That's kind of cool. But I do believe in objective beauty, and we should try to strive to make things beautiful, especially our churches, and we should go beyond that even. The Protestants do kind of have a point with that, of making the whole of society beautiful, not just the church and then you live in a hut, you know? Sorry, I have heartburn. All right. So let's make the compromise be. I can't stare at this camera for very long. Let's make the compromise be that churches should have a Latin mass and a Novus Ordo mass, like at least one every Sunday. Okay? That's fair. That is absolutely fair. And daily mass can be participated in either. That should be a thing. All right. See you next time.